It's been a nightmare start for the Milwaukee Bucks. They currently sit in last place in the Eastern Conference with a 1-6 record, and their lone win comes against the injury-depleted 76ers without Paul George or Joel Embiid. Rewind back to 2021, the Milwaukee Bucks beat the Phoenix Suns for their first title in 50 years. Giannis has his first Finals MVP, and he is developing into the face of the NBA, coming off of an amazing couple of seasons, getting a couple of MVPs and a Defensive Player of the Year, racking up All-Star appearance after All-Star appearance, All-NBA team after All-NBA team. But now the focus is building a dynasty, going back to back. And coming into the 2021-2022 season, they seem to not miss a beat. Once again, they're finishing as a top 3 team in the conference. Come postseason time, Chris Middleton gets hurt, and they try their best. Giannis does his best impression of LeBron James carrying the team, but it's just not enough to beat the deep Boston Celtics team in 2022. They bow out of the Eastern Conference semifinals in 7 games and eventually try to retool for next year. In 2022-2023, they have the similar roster, have another great regular season, this time the Eastern Conference top seed, and despite having a lot of hopes and aspirations to regaining the Eastern Conference title and returning to the finals, injury strike again. This time it hits Giannis, and he hurts his tailbone at the beginning of the 1-8 matchup between the Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks in Game 1, misses a couple of games. The Milwaukee Bucks falter and fade away, and they are eliminated in 5 games. Massive disappointment. Now, feeling the pressure, the Bucks front office makes some moves, and while retaining Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton, they make a big move to bring in Damian Lillard from the Portland Trail Blazers, but sacrificing Jrue Holiday in the process. Eventually, Jrue Holiday gets himself over to the Boston Celtics, and the rest is history. We all know that the Boston Celtics were missing one piece, and it seems that Jrue Holiday was that missing piece, because before he joined the Boston Celtics, the Celtics would get oh so close to the finals, winning it all, but they would falter at inopportune times, and Jrue Holiday was the perfect guy to fit into that equation. Now, the Celtics look like that team to be the dynasty that the Milwaukee Bucks aspired to be. Now, those moves are just from a roster construction standpoint, but also the Bucks front office really mishandled the coaching staff, because after firing Coach Budenholzer, and that was a valid move, I understood. They've been stuck in a rut. They made some moves. They stood pat with Coach Bud until they really couldn't. And now they tried to bring in a new fresh mind head coach with Adrian Griffin, the top assistant amongst Nick Nurse's staff with the Toronto Raptors. And throughout his tenure with the Milwaukee Bucks, he compiled a 30-13 record. The problem was the defensive side of the basketball really fell off a cliff. And that happens, understandably so, when you lose a guy like Jrue Holiday, a player that is a first-team all-defensive caliber type of player, and you replace him with an older Damian Lillard who was never really a defender to begin with. Well, their defense fell off a cliff, and it starts off from the perimeter and it's circumvented to the interior as well. And last year, it got so bad that the locker room began to have murmurs, get frustrated with Adrian Griffin, and eventually that led to his firing abruptly, despite having the second best record in the entire association. Now, there were some options, not a lot of great options mid-season to replace Adrian Griffin, but somehow the Bucks front office came up with the bright idea to name Doc Rivers as their next head coach. Now, Doc Rivers has a long history of blowing leads. I mean, going back to his Orlando Magic days, he blows a 3-1 series lead to the Detroit Pistons. In 2010, blows a 3-2 finals lead against the LA Lakers. In 2020, with the LA Clippers, blows a 3-1 series lead in the bubble, leads to his eventual firing. He goes to the Philadelphia 76ers, where he blows a 3-2 series lead in 2023. and fails to make the conference finals since appearing in the Eastern Conference Finals with the Boston Celtics in 2012. This guy doesn't know how to close out games, and to be honest, it's quite appalling how he continues to get head coaching gig after head coaching gig despite big flaws in his tactical decisions made on the basketball court. Coming into his tenure with the Milwaukee Bucks, he already has a long list of excuses to their poor start. It comes down to how the road team manages nutrition, how they travel, how they sleep, how it's a roster that's a bunch of individual parts but doesn't work well together as a team. Well, obviously in the 2024 postseason, they falter because of Giannis' injury, and that's been another reoccurring theme. Giannis has his slate of injuries, but also Dame got hurt. So basically Doc gets a pass for 2024. Okay, he gets a mulligan, full off season to work in his mindset, his offensive sets. But we're still seeing problems with this Milwaukee Bucks team, and it starts between the two superstars. Between Giannis and Dame, statistically, they look great, putting up similar stat lines throughout their entire career. But when they're trying to work together as a team and get the other guys involved, it's been a mess. Pick and roll is not there, and honestly, these two don't complement each other well at all. And then when you add further insult to injury, Chris Middleton is yet again out due to injury. When you have Bobby Portis coming up to take in his minutes, but he's looked lackluster to say the least. Every offensive set going through him is a mid-range contested jump shot, a fadeaway jump shot, or a turnover waiting to happen. And this Milwaukee Bucks team honestly has a lot of other problems: perimeter defense, age, injuries, and I don't think they're going to have any solutions coming up the turnpike any soon. And even if they do round off a few victories together, somehow get back into the playoff mix, this team doesn't have a ceiling higher than the play-in tournament at this point. With this poor start, you were looking at the play-in tournament, and if you even get through that, it's another first-round exit. And honestly, with Giannis and the cryptic trade rumors already circulating with the Miami Heat or the Brooklyn Nets, I wouldn't be surprised if come trade deadline time in 2025, that the Milwaukee Bucks end up scrapping this entirely and trading Giannis out of Milwaukee for good.